Welcome to Backyard Cigars, and today I'm going to introduce someone born in 1937. Began stealing cigars from his mother in 1947, 1948, when he was around 10, 11 years old. This man served in Korea, entrepreneur of New York nightclubs with the Fania All-Stars during the salsa heyday in the 1970s. He is none other than Don David, my grandfather, former cigar smoker, and he's here today, and I finally got him to talk to me a little bit about cigars back in the day. Now, he already checked out my cigar, which is a Punch 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 from Cuba, and he agreed that this is a classic cigar, something from way before he was born, as he said.
Yes.
Now, Papa David, let me ask you, when you first started smoking cigars, you were 12 years old, you were taking them from your mom.
Yes.
And all of the women in your family smoked cigars in Puerto Rico.
All the old ladies.
All the old ladies. And they smoked Puerto Rican tobacco, Cuban tobacco, anything that they could get their hands on.
Doesn't matter what kind of country.
And we used to get a lot of, in Puerto Rico, you got a lot of Cuban tobacco that came in the 40s and 50s. It was completely legal, so you would smoke Cuban cigars,
Yes.
Puerto Rican cigars. What was the quality of Puerto Rican tobacco back in those days? It was good tobacco, good cigars from Puerto Rico.
It was a good, very good cigar.
Did people compare it to Cuban cigars in quality, in terms of quality?
No, because Puerto Rico got their own farms or tobacco.
Yeah.
They got farms all over Puerto Rico.
In Cuba, the government, this is before the government owned the farms, but Cuba was sending a lot of their tobacco to Spain.
Yes.
And in Puerto Rico, it stayed on the island, the natural tobacco.
They used to do own tobacco, own cigars, and then sell the cigars.
Now, when you became a little older and you were in your 20s, you had some money in your pocket, what kind of cigars did you go for? What kind of cigars did you prefer? Like your choice.
I tell you the truth. Anyone that they give me, and the one, the cheaper one, that's the price.
So the cheaper cigars is what you went for, but basically anything you could get your hands on.
My mother got the gold ones, and I used to take.
So you relied on your mother's stash because you knew she had good cigars.
Yeah.
And she would get, I'm assuming from Cuba and Puerto Rico, she would have a mix of cigars. So did you, when you remember a little older now, like maybe in your 30s, in your 40s, did you have a brand of cigar that you liked more than others? If it was Cuban, clear Havana?
Yeah. At that time, I was living over here.
You were in New York City, yeah.
Over here.
And what kind of cigar did you smoke when you came to New York City?
The good one. See, because I work.
You were working, you were making money.
I made good money.
So, Cuban cigars.
Yes. Well, yeah, that was over here.
Yeah.
The one that the people buy, the Cuban.
Now, do you remember any brands in particular, or you just?
Oh yeah, different.
Do you remember like H. Upman, Cohiba?
Yes, that one.
H. Upman or Cohiba?
Cohiba.
Cohibas were your favorites, among your favorites, and
Yeah.
what about Bolivar?
I use whatever I can get, I smoke.
So you didn't discriminate if it wasn't
No,
expensive
I
or
don't go
cheap.
by kinds, but no, whatever.
And now, were there certain cigars that were good, and there was some that were bad? The cheap ones sometimes were. Back in those days, the cheap ones were still good.
Yes,
You could still find a great
Yes.
cheap cigar.
yes.
Well, nowadays it's a little different. Like you have to kind of find a good cheap cigar. You can't assume that they're all good. But back then, you could pick up a cigar in New York City and it was going to be good.
Yes.
It was going to smoke good. But Cuba was your preferred brand because you were making money and you could get.
Yes.
Now, what I read somewhere that they used to mix Puerto Rican tobacco with Cuban tobacco.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't. Between the two, no difference. Because the fame was Cuban
Yeah.
at that time. But then Puerto Rico cigar come up too.
So they were very similar tobaccos.
Yes.
And when they blended them, so I found out that when they blended Cuban and Puerto Rican, or if they blended Cuban tobacco with another tobacco, they would call it a clear Havana, and they sold it in New York.
Yes.
It was cheaper than a puro Havana, and people would buy them, and usually they were mixed with Cuban and Puerto Rican, with a Sumatran wrapper or something like that.
Yes.
Now, you smoke those as well.
Yeah. Then,
Well-
whatever they give me sometimes, I smoke. Me and my friend, we sit down.
Danny, can you do me a favor? So, Cuban cigars in quality back then, they were the top.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah,
The fame.
The fame.
The name wasn't at top.
now I'm smoking a Cuban cigar right now, and I want everybody to see. I always say that Cuban cigars have very delicate wrappers. The wrappers are very delicate. Now this just happened to me right now. What would you say if you had a cigar like that? And that happens. When that happens to the wrapper. You
That
smoke
happened-
through it?
That happened. No, I smoke. Yeah, that happened to me a lot of times. Like that.
And you would just smoke through it?
Yeah.
So you get to the part where the wrapper's
Yeah.
okay.
I smoke. Yeah.
Now is that when this happens, for me I always feel like it might be a quality issue because they say that Cuba the quality is different now. It's not as good.
Yeah.
But some people just say it's just something that happens, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that happens.
Maybe water. Drop water in a cigar or something.
Moisture.
Yeah.
This cigar was kept in my humidor for a month at 65 RH, and I bought it from an official Habanos site. So it is an official Cuban, but it was in the humidor for about a month, and that's what happened just now. I'm gonna keep smoking it because my grandfather says this happens, and you just smoke through it. Now I'm gonna show you a few cigars.
We don't see the difference in water, whatever. What people smoke.
I'm gonna show you a few cigars, and I want to get your idea on them. So this is Cohiba, and this is their new Maduro line. It's not exactly new, but Cohiba now makes a Maduro because people love Maduros now.
Because I don't smoke cigars for years.
My grandfather quit smoking cigars when he was 53, 54 years old. He did it for his health. He did it for his family. He had been smoking since he was almost 12 years old, so he had put in a lot of miles in terms of cigar smoking.
Yes.
Smoked a lot of. Now, how many cigars a day would you smoke when you were in your 20s and 30s?
2, 3.
2 or 3 a day? And as you got older, I remember we'd sit down and you'd be watching boxing and you'd be smoking your cigars. What cigars were those that you were smoking in those days? This is early 80s,
This
right?
is gonna be Puerto Rican and Cuban.
Puerto Rican and Cuban. So like a mix of the two, or
No,
The-
whatever I can get.
now
Whatever my mother has sometimes. So, for my mother, I will get a cigar every day.
one a day from you stole from her. But when you were in New York City, and I was a little boy, and I was sitting next to your chair, and you were smoking cigars. Were those Cuban cigars that you were smoking?
Yeah, but they were famed cigar here.
That was the famous cigar here. So those were the cigars you were smoking at the time. Now, what if someone told you, like it is today, Dominican cigars are top of the line. Back in those days, what was the Dominican cigars to you?
They don't have too much name,
So they weren't that well known.
because Dominican.
But now, Dominican cigars are excellent. And Nicaragua makes a lot of great cigars in Honduras. But when you were coming up, it was Puerto Rico, Cuba. Was that it?
Miscellaneous that people making them, and then in Cuba and Puerto Rico.
That's it. But Dominican cigars were not a big thing.
No, 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 no.
Let me show you. This is a Dominican puro. This is Lito Gomez small batch. This is a Dominican puro made by La Flor Dominicana by Lito Gomez, a master blender. Dominican puro, all Dominican. Las tripas son de la República. El capote, la capa, todo de la República Dominicana. Todo completo. Un puro.
Yeah.
And this is a hard to get cigar, very expensive. And
Yeah, because now
now it's different. Now it's different.
everything changed.
So I think that in Nicaragua, usually the best that Nicaragua has comes from Padrón. José Padrón es la compañía Padrón Cigars de Nicaragua y este es un cigarro, los cigarros de ellos. I'm telling him these cigars cost $20, $30 and they are the best, and they compare to Cuban cigars. Él es cubano. José Padrón era cubano, Jorge Padrón. Ellos empezaron esta compañía, Padrón Cigars. And this is box press. Tell me feel the box press. Tell me what you think of the box press. Was that something that you saw often in your time in the 40s and 50s, the box press?
No.
No? Round cigars all the time. Okay, let me show you. So this is a Partagas.
Look, this little one, I forget the name, but we used to call them this little.
The little ones?
Yes.
That's all because they had the little one. El chiquito, yeah, right? The little fat one.
Yeah.
So this is a Partagas. And what did you feel about Partagas when you used to smoke? Is Partagas a good brand that you like?
Yeah, but people who use it too.
So this is the Partagas
Yes.
Serie D. The Partagas. Now, when you were smoking in those times, did people care about, the wrapper, the filler? Did people really care about those type of things? Like nowadays, people want to know where the cigar is from, what kind of wrappers is being used, what kind of binder, el capote, and what kind of tripas, what kind of filler it has. Was that a big deal back in the day? Or
Yes. The people don't complain.
it was just so much quality that
Yes.
people just smoked?
On one cigar, they want the cigar like that.
I just want a
To
cigar.
smoke. You don't worry about how big are and how, but the kind Cuban cigar, fame, a little fame, that's all.
Now I'm going to show you another cigar. This is Opus X, and this is by Arturo Fuente, Carlito Fuente Jr. Now that's a brand. They were the first people that created a Dominican puro, un cigarro completamente de la República Dominicana. El primero. Andy Garcia played a part in this cigar because of one of his movies, and this is a cigar that so many people try to buy, and they pay so much money for. And it's pure Dominican binder. Everything is pure Dominican, and it's considered one of the best in the world.
When I used to smoke, I never see a cigar like that. Because, that cigar is a new owners and everything.
Yeah, Well,
Yeah.
the cigar came out in 1996,
Yeah.
but the family had been making tobacco for a long time in Cuba.
Oh, yeah. But,
Arturo Fuente's father, Arturo Fuente, and I think Arturo Fuente's father before him were making in Cuba.
Cuba always made cigars.
Good cigars.
Yes, on Google. Yes, they got fame.
Do you remember any names from of any popular names from Cuba from back when you were smoking cigars in Cuba?
But I want to ask people that later on, like I can tell you.
Okay, yeah, I'll add it in the notes.
I just forget, you know.
No, it's okay. It was a long time ago.
Yes.
Now here's a H. Upman from Cuba as well. And the bands change over the years because these are not the same bands that you saw when you were smoking cigars, because a lot of these bands, they've changed them. But this is H. Upman from Cuba. And this is a Bolivar.
I heard the name.
Did you ever smoke that one?
No.
No.
But I heard the Bolivar.
Strong cigar.
Yes.
Now, did you like strong cigars, or did you like mild to medium cigars? Or did you like a cigar to be strong?
Everybody like strong cigars.
So, yeah,
Because they like, you know, feel
the tobacco.
yeah.
You want to feel the strength of the tobacco. So, even though Cuba was making Claro cigar wrappers, they were strong. They were strong. Cuba's cigars were strong. Puerto Rico was known for having really strong tobacco
Yes, yes.
at one point.
Yeah, Puerto Rico made good cigars too.
And they were strong.
See, but Cuba always was in the top.
Cuba was always on top. It was like Puerto Rico was always in the shadow of Cuba.
Then later on, Puerto Rico, you know.
Now I'm going to show you one more cigar. Now this is a vintage cigar that I purchased, and this is a Robert Burns Deluxe Panatela. A Panatela cigar, machine made. It wasn't hand rolled. Inside of it, you have Cuban tobacco, Puerto Rican tobacco, tobacco from Sumatra, and I forget the other fourth country that they used for the blend. But that cigar became popular in the 1950s. When you were in New York City, did you see cigars like that? And did you smoke cigars like that?
No,
No.
I don't see them.
So this was
If
not
I seen
something
it,
you would not smoke it?
You
would smoke it?
It's nice.
Yeah. So you would like that.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a cigar, like I said, that
Look like a cigarette.
yeah, le dicen cigarrillo. Sí, cigarrillos.
Pero ya, by that time, I don't think I was smoking. Because,
Well, in the 1950s you were smoking,
oh yeah,
but you quit in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s, probably. I'm not sure.
no, before.
Before that, you think? I think you quit. I think it was the late 90s or early 90s. Because in the 80s you were smoking, because I remember I was there. I was there with you when you were smoking. You'd open the window and you put on the fan so that I wouldn't get too much tobacco in my lungs. And then we'd watch the boxing fights. Now, nowadays, Cuba is not at the top anymore. Sort of, they're still at the top globally, but for people like myself and other people in my community and cigar channels or cigar people that watch these channels, it's about Nicaragua, it's about Dominican Republic, and it's about Honduras. And Cuba, of course, is in the conversation because they're the originators, right? They're the motherland.
Yes.
You can't forget about them.
Yes.
You got some countries like Peru, Panama, that make a small amount of tobacco,
But now Cuba don't have that thing because so many problems happen in Cuba.
A lot of problems. And they've had problems with the soil as well. So they've had problems.
Now the other countries, they're doing okay.
So if you were a cigar smoker today, if you were one today, would you try the new Dominican stuff, the new Nicaraguan
I
stuff?
tried Puerto Rico.
You would try everything.
Yeah.
You would be trying every tobacco that you can.
When you a smoker, you try the best.
That's what it's about, right? Grandfather,
It's like a cigarette. You try the best.
you want the best.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and hopefully not the last time that we speak to a former cigar expert, in my opinion, the man who really brought it all about for me, my love of cigars, his love of cigars, and everything that he's known about so many different things, from the music I listen to the sports that I watch. I love this man with all my heart. I love you, Grandpa.
I know you too.
And with that, I say to all of you, thank you for watching. Until next time, Backyard Cigars.